Welcome to Climate Quickies, bite-sized nuggets of climate goodness from our TEDxLondon experts in under 5 minutes.
In this week's Climate Quickie, we're taking a look at a super cool emerging school of climate thinking that puts people at the heart of climate action. It's called Intersectional Environmentalism, and it can help us to dismantle systems of oppression across race, gender, class, and identity. Let's head over to Leah Thomas, author and the founder of the Intersectional Environmentalist, to tell us more. And remember, stay curious.
Intersectional theory was created by Dr. Kimberly Crenshaw in 1989 and is all about overlapping identities and things like that. At first, it was applied to feminism because it was really important to look at the ways Blackness and womanhood intersected. Fast forward to now, I think we should do the same thing with environmentalism and consider the ways identity, things like race and class, impact someone's experience with the natural world around them. For context, environmental justice as a field of study has existed since the 70s or the 80s, and it was inspired by both the U.S. Civil Rights Movement and the Earth Day movement at the time, kind of combining those two ideas. So environmental justice, which looks into racial inequality, classism, and environmental hazards and outcomes, has existed for a long time, but hasn't been met positively, I would say. A lot of people, whether it's due to naivete or just blatant racism, often would say environmentalism exists way over here and civil rights and social justice exists over here. But that's not the case, as many lower income folks and Black and brown people around the world can see very clearly because they don't have clean air or water. So I think navigating academia as oftentimes the only Black woman, so both of those dual identities in, science, I was often met with whether it was subtle gaslighting or just being very dismissive. Even some corporations I worked at, I would try to say, we really need to prioritize environmental justice. And in essence, it would always come down to maybe later. And that's something that you can see throughout all sorts of movements throughout history where Black and brown folks are told that our liberation can maybe come later. You've seen that in the feminist movement, which is why we have intersectional feminism now, when back in the day, many white women said, race, that's a little too tricky, or LGBTQ plus liberation, that's a little too tricky. Maybe if white women are liberated, we can come back and circle back to Black and brown women. But the fact of the matter is they don't circle back to us. Yeah. So we've had to create our own movements and things like that. So I haven't always been met with positive reception, but in 2020, and again, that was 5 years later, people started coming around. And I think, honestly, it was because of public pressure. The Black Lives Matter movement was trending in a really major way. And all of a sudden, a lot of environmental organizations were like, we need to say something. We have to say something. And it does make me a little sad that they started speaking up because they felt like they had to, because they could have been speaking up since the 80s. There's so much harm when people think that racial justice and social justice have nothing to do with environmentalism. It's leading to horrible, horrible outcomes that you all are probably so familiar with, but people of color, folks in the global South, low-income people bearing the brunt of the climate crisis. So yeah, I don't want it to be so hard for future Black and brown folks, and representation is so important and belonging because it instills a sense of confidence that you can't tell me anything. And I want people to have that confidence so they know, hey, even if it's not in your little community, there's a whole world of people of color who love the earth, and you go into this field with confidence to know that you belong here.
Thanks for listening to this Quickie.
This episode was created by our superstar podcast team at TEDxLondon. Until next time,
stay curious.